What up, church family? What's good in the hood? What's poppin'? Today we're gonna have a podcast, and
It's already scuffed.
how about we introduce ourselves? My name's Sean. I'm a guy.
Hello, Sean. Wait, we're
Hello.
supposed to introduce. Never mind.
Oh,
How are we gonna do it? Make a decision right now. Yes or no?
okay. So we're gonna have
Self-love.
Trevor. He's a guy. He's very much into volleyball and anime.
Oh, we're doing
Driver. Okay.
And
yeah.
you know.
that's our favorite that's our favorite buff white boy.
Period.
He's our
You have two other ones here.
I said
I'm a man.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, you
yes.
But
still
you're
have
not a
two
guy.
other
You're a
ones here.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. He's
He's also a
volleyball.
resident tech guy, because we're all really stupid and don't know how to work that stuff.
So I'll give a hand to Mr. Siri.
I have two already.
I'll give you another one here.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Who's next?
Trevor, introduce somebody.
Huh?
Introduce
How am
somebody.
I? What?
Just pick
Just
somebody and
anybody.
introduce them.
Hey, well, there's Michael.
Oh, there
He
is.
likes drums. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's on drum corps,
That's like my whole
Pathfinders,
personality.
all that fun stuff. Yeah.
That's our
And
default introduction for Michael. He plays drums.
Yeah.
Just
And
like Anna Rose sings.
he's super duper smart, smarter than all of us.
Mm.
Hmm?
He is a smarty. He has
Okay,
Harder.
I'll take it.
a lot
Even
of-
though we have a teacher here.
Michael's still
He's a
smarter.
mystery too.
who has a bachelor's degree. He's smart.
He's the other white boy here.
He's our other white boy.
I'm the second favorite, apparently.
I'm the first.
No, you're our
What?
favorite skinny white boy.
Yeah.
Wow, so now you're putting me in categories?
Now
Now you're having to segregate us to make me feel better?
These guys, it's 2021.
White boy category.
Anyways,
And there's Faye,
yeah.
who decorated her own wall. Show us your wall, Faye.
I painted it all by myself.
Whoop, whoop.
My favorite is the dinosaur.
So cute.
Thank you.
So cute.
My favorite is the line that goes up and down. I'm like, I could do that.
It's
The
like
heartbeat.
Heartbeat.
it's an
It's
Oh, right,
emotional
that is.
roller
Yeah.
coaster. Because first you're like, oh, it's going up, and then plot twist, it's going down again.
Yeah, who knew?
Never know where it's gonna go.
Tell me
Never
how
know.
it works. She's our resident artist. She's also a mocktail bartender.
Yes.
I
Come to
am.
Cafe Youth, check it out.
Yeah.
Cafe Youth.
February 20th. Just saying. Toot, toot.
That's it. What else do you do, Faith?
She wears
That's
glasses.
wow.
She does
Yeah.
karate.
Yeah, it's true.
She does it pretty well, and let me tell you.
Karate.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then we have Anna Rose.
Yeah,
Hey.
and Rose.
Yeah,
And
she
she's also smart.
That's it. Just Anna Rose.
Super smart.
She's Rose.
She also
Probably.
sings. If I
She
have to be
does.
introduced
She's
as
a
the
very
drummer,
amazing
she has to be
voice.
introduced as the singer.
I do
Tell
be
him.
singing.
Period. Poo.
And actually, Anna Rose is leading us out tonight. So go ahead and introduce our topic, Anna Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and skip
hold on.
Sean.
Wait. Before I do, we gotta introduce Mr. Siri.
I thought we did.
Are we still skipping Sean?
Oh, did we? Oh, and
I
Sean.
think so, yeah.
Well,
Fine.
Sean
And
kind
then
of
Sean.
introduced himself.
No, I'm
Sean's a
doing my
resident
name.
punching bag.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Sean's our favorite.
Sean is the comedic relief.
He's our
Yes.
slash.
That's a better word.
When he's not upset and wearing his mask.
Yes.
Oh,
He contributes to the conversation occasionally.
Sometimes.
occasionally.
He contributes often, not always in a positive way.
If anybody's our punching bag, it'll be Trevor because he can actually take it.
Oh,
That's true.
Moving
And then
on.
he is our support for today.
yes.
Yes. He's our favorite
Yeah.
white man. Okay.
The segregation is crazy.
Yes.
Perfect.
Anyways, like we said before, I'm doing the topic this week, and it is self-love.
Woo.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the memo.
Never.
So I know like nowadays in self-love is kind of like a hard thing for a lot of people. So I just want to start out being perfectly clear on what the textbook definition of self-love is. So according to Google, self-love is the regard for one's own well-being and happiness, chiefly considered as a desirable rather than a narcissistic characteristic. So that's what Google says it is. Would you say that you love yourself unconditionally? Why? And why or why not? Kind
I
of a
would
hard
say
one.
no. I don't love myself unconditionally. I guess you kind of think about like how much you screw up in a lot of things, and how like when you compare yourself to other people, you just sort of like pale in comparison. That you sort of like you're not living up to what you could or are supposed to live up to. So yeah, that's like a lot of the stuff that goes on. Yeah.
Mm,
I would agree with that. I mean, yes, I do love myself. It's just when you sit back and think, I could have done this better. I should have done this differently. I should have treated that person better. You're just like, gosh, I mean, I could be a better person and I should be a better person. But you sometimes just have to push that aside and be like, you know what? I love me for me. And I'm going to prove it to myself and I'm going to tell myself that. So I believe it.
yeah, like sometimes I think a lot of people, including myself, we can find like ways or reasons why we don't deserve our own love. Like I don't know, like I'm too this, I'm too that, I did this, I did that. So I can find ways to justify why I like don't deserve my own happiness and like why all these things. But in the end, I don't know, it's just a hard thing.
And like based on what I'm hearing, it almost sounds like, it's a matter of how you deal and treat past mistakes or not meeting expectations, because I would say I feel the same way. Like not in the but I feel the same way, but I would say that I love myself pretty consistently, because like even though I mess up, that's kind of part of who you are and it's going to make you who you are. So if you are not loving yourself for doing the wrong thing in this scenario, well then who is that really helping anyways? Like, and and you know what you should have done in that scenario, so you're growing as a person. And so I don't really see any reason, like, and I'm not saying that your points and your feelings aren't valid, but I'm just saying that there is no like logical reason to hate yourself or not to love yourself.
Yeah. I love myself quite a bit. There is one problem though with like saying you love yourself for everything, because then you can start ignoring flaws and mistakes that you need to problems when you like you think you're I don't know, I can't think of an example right now, but yeah.
I think thinking about it, like from what we've said, it seems like a lot of the reason that we can't like love ourselves unconditionally is because of insecurities, right?
Mhm.
They're like, because like everybody has a lot of insecurities, and that usually affects like self-esteem and self-love nowadays, I guess. So the next question is, what is your experience with insecurities and like how it ties into your self-love?
So I feel like I would think it'd be different with boys and girls, but me being a girl and being on social media, I feel like social media has a very big influence on my insecurities because I see these Instagram models and I see these beautiful women who are just like, you know, like super skinny and super like super good skin, just all of this. And it's just like, man, I want to look like that. Like, I want to be like that. And then you start to like point out every single small flaw that really, really doesn't matter deep down. But you start to fixate yourself on it and you start to worry about things that you sometimes can't control. And it starts to tie into your mental health and your self-esteem and your self-love. It really does. But I feel like if you just look at it from a point of everyone is beautiful in their own way, then you won't do that necessarily. You won't look and say, oh, I have all these bad flaws. I'll just be like, oh, she's beautiful, but so am I.
Mm. Well, I
Okay.
think. Oh,
Sorry, here you go.
Good.
Oh, okay. I guess like a lot of like places where your insecurities can come from is like giving up on yourself, I guess you could say. Like if somebody was to look at themselves and think that they're overweight or something, then they could like think, oh well, I'm not gonna get better anytime soon, so I might as well give up, and that could be like a major insecurity that they have. So, you know, I'd say giving up on yourself could be a big one.
Mm.
I know
I
for
think,
myself, with some of my insecurities, like the first thing I think of is like I have an issue with spelling or the lack thereof, which goes back to whatever in my past. But that makes me really like self-conscious whenever I am like writing anything like in front of a classroom. Sometimes I'm like, oh no. And so like it makes me kind of self-conscious and start to like judge myself and put myself down. Or anytime I'm like writing an email to a parent or to something, those things I'm even if it's things that I actually do know how to spell or that I'm actually okay with, I just kind of second guess myself because of those insecurities that I have.
everybody say sorry for making fun of Mr.
Sorry,
Sirius.
Mr.
It's
Stu.
sincerely
Mr.
impossible.
Deary.
It's okay.
Inspiration on spelling.
Anyways, personally, I think for me, I don't know. Okay, this is gonna sound like horrible, but from like whenever I was younger, like I've always been like kind of smart. Well, that sounds
Kind
really
of.
bad. So like, so like whenever people like would talk to me or something, they'd be like, "Oh, she's like so smart and stuff, blah blah blah, smart." So like in my head, I built up like this expectation of myself, like, "Oh, you have to be smart, or else like if you're not, then it's gonna be like you're a failure." So like that's like kind of where some of my insecurities stem from. Like you gotta be this, you gotta be this, and it's like a standard kind of that like I only make for myself, really, like in my own head. Like it's just a standard that's there, and if I fall from it, then it's like literally the end of the world. So I think that's where my insecurities stem from, and it kind of goes into my self-love too, because like, hey, if I did this really well, then I love myself, like I'm so great, like that's so cool, I did that. But like if I do anything, like if I like don't get something, or if I like fall short of that standard I made for myself, then I kind of like, it dampens me down or something. So
Yeah,
that's for me.
I really agree with that too, because like especially with math, and then how we have all these equations in physics, but they just make it up, so I don't know what to do. I hate it when that happens. And my biggest problem is like, especially when I played sports at my other school, I was always with older kids, so I never knew what to set my expectations for my body and stuff like that. So it was hard to, like, I would always be try and be like them, but I couldn't really reach it because they were like 2 or 3 years older, and I never really have guys my age to compare myself to.
Yeah.
So I don't really, there's not much I can do about that.
Me too.
Well, like I don't mean to sound like I have it all figured out or anything, but like I used to struggle with this really bad in the past. Like it gave me so much anxiety and like made my life miserable. But you know, it really kind of took reframing my insecurities as um like unfixable to fixable, right? So once I saw that, you know, a lot of these things, I mean, not everything, but those I just kind of accepted and learned to live with. But like the smart thing, I know that for sure. That also wasn't only in my head, that was an expectation built up around other people, you know, in my environment. Not my parents or anything, but like my peers in elementary school and even my teachers in elementary school. Like when I didn't get like a math problem or whatever, like everybody would turn to me and like look shocked. And so, you know, that didn't really help. But, you know, with stuff like that, I've just kind of learned that you know, this is not an area that I'm happy with. So I'm going to work to improve it. You know, um, it's more of a motivator rather than a roadblock, if anything.
I feel like a problem with that though. It's not like a problem with that mentality. It's a problem with the person's mentality themselves. I can speak as an example. If I'm not liking what I'm doing, though I like would like to get motivated to do it, I'm just sort of lazy to do it. So yeah, that's a big problem that I have, especially with like school. I just sort of sail through. A lot of people tell me I do that. My mom, and that like I need to pick up and get better because I'm reaching the end of high school. And I agree with her. I do that at some points, but then I just sort of like fall back and I'm like, I'm doing good right now. I could just so as much as
Well, I
I
mean,
say stuff
the
like
first
this,
step
I'm
is always the
gonna,
hardest. I
huh?
can say that
Oh,
easily. But, you know,
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next question, unless anybody has anything else to add. That was very nice. Anyways, so next question, is loving yourself a learned behavior? You know, do you know what I mean by that? Like, you know how there are some things that like animals they just like do like naturally, and like some things that we do naturally, like breathing or something. Like, is loving yourself something that we have, like we had initially and we had to learn to unlearn? Or is it something that we have to aspire to achieve, you know?
I think we don't really start getting much self-awareness until like mid-puberty, whenever everything is so different. Like most people don't really start looking at themselves and criticizing themselves until they start changing drastically, especially during puberty. So I feel like it's something that can be like something innate, but in that influential time in our lives, it's hard to make that come out more than the insecurities.
I definitely agree with Trevor. Because like I feel like when we're all younger, we're all kind of like, well, I guess sort of narcissistic, but also we had self-love for ourselves, kind of boastful about a lot of things. But then as we like grow older and hit puberty and start thinking like, what are other people thinking about me? That's sort of like our self-esteem lowers, and then that's when we start losing our self-love, and when we need to start building it back up again.
Mhm. I don't know. I think for me personally, I don't know. I guess it varies because I remember from like a very young age, like needing validation from other people. Because like I live off compliments, confession. Compliment me every day. I live off of it. But like I remember being that way from like a long time ago, like very young. I don't know where it came from, but that's just me. Yeah. Anybody else?
I mean, yeah, because I wouldn't say self-love is innate, but I would just agree with Trevor that you do have that lack of awareness. kind of comes off as self-love, but I would almost argue that's more pride than anything. Because, you know, like if you tell a little kid like they can't do something, well then like everything is shattered, it comes crumbling down, you know, right? It's almost like they've lost the facade that they were putting up. I mean, albeit unknowingly, but you know, because once you really start to love yourself and you get criticized or you start to criticize yourself for certain things, like yeah, it may hurt or almost ring true to a degree, but it's not going to like send your whole world crashing down. Like I know when I was a little kid, like if I ever was told that I couldn't do something, I wouldn't try to do it again ever. Like it made me feel awful, made me feel worthless. So, you know, that's kind of how it goes. I feel like that's an indicator to show true self-love over just like pride or facade.
I'm not really sure. I never really thought of it before. It was just like, is it something that comes naturally? Like initially I was like, oh yeah, it's something that we start off already having. But I think it's almost like more self-preservation. Because I think people in nature kind of tend to be selfish. And I'm trying to think how to say this. You know, like they self-preserve, they pick things that's best for them. You know, I think of my kids that are like, oh, it would be better for everybody if I shared this toy, but just because I have it, I can, you know, start an argument or something that they don't really take a step back and look at. And to me, it's kind of, that's not really self-love. That's more of just like self-preservation or, you know, just like being selfish, I guess. So I kind of thought initially, yeah, it's born in us, but I think it's something we kind of have to learn and grow with. And the more you get comfortable with yourself, and the easier it is to self-love.
Yeah, I think like whenever I think of what you just said, I think of, you know, how some parents, I've seen it on like social media, they give like affirmations to their children. You know, like I saw it in a movie one time too. They're like, oh, did you know that you're so beautiful? Did you know that you're the smartest girl in the world or boy? Did you know that can you say that I am so amazing? I am so smart. They like do that with their kids a lot. So I think like it's I don't know, for a lot of things, especially self-love, I've noticed that like a lot of the time when you're trying to teach yourself self-love, you gotta like make it a habit to fake it till you make it. You know, that's why like affirmations and stuff like that work so well. Cause like if you look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, oh, I hate myself. Oh, I hate the way that like my eyes look. I hate that my cheeks are brown. Like then you're gonna like genuinely start hating it about yourself. And from personal experience, it works. Like it works exactly like that. But if like you look at yourself and you're like, wow, I look good, then it like works the other way. Like you start to gain more confidence, which is really interesting to me. Like, why does that work that way? You know?
Is there a line between that and being like conceited though?
Oh, wait.
Oh, sorry.
Different question. We're
Just
gonna ask
kidding.
it later.
Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Okay.
Stop getting ahead of us, Mr. Siri.
My bad.
Okay, then we're gonna move on. Unless anybody else has something to add.
The more I listened to like what they were saying, the more I realized that like my idea of having self-love when you were younger was kind of leading towards like being proud of yourself a lot of the time. And I mean, obviously I know what self-love is. It's just when I was thinking when you're younger, that's what like you would define as self-love, when in reality it was more of what Mr. Sherry was saying, self-preservation.
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like that. Which is like, I also like whenever I looked at the definition for the first time, like that was not what I was thinking of when I thought of self-love. It was the regard for one's well-being, own well-being, and happiness. So I guess like self-preservation could go into that a little bit. But then there's also like the happiness part. Like, do I care for my own happiness? Like, do I care for my own happiness? And like, how would that play out in my actions and like in my mind and the way that I treat myself? Like, do I care for my own happiness? Anyways, so next question. Is it possible to give genuine love to others if you can't love yourself?
No. I say that so fast because I have come to realize it myself. Like, you, if you don't love yourself and you don't see your worth, your value, like your beauty, if you don't recognize that, then how in the world are you going to show that to somebody else? Like, you have to be okay with yourself and who you are as a person for you to even think about trying to love someone else. Because if you don't have that in your life, how are you going to give it away? If that makes sense. Like, if you don't have it, if you don't grasp it, how in the world can you give it when you don't have it in the first place?
Mm.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm like thinking of this in a wrong way, but like if you like first start off genuinely loving somebody and then like something bad happens in your life and you just sort of like lose your love for yourself and like everything around you just sort of grows gray and dismal, does that mean you stop loving that person, or because you stop loving yourself and what you've become, or like
Yeah, like I think of whenever I was thinking of the question, I like my mind went to like my parents. Cause like you know how you love your parents. Like I don't know, like a parental parent like child relationship is like really like confusing to me sometimes because like you love them kind of unconditionally, but like if they weren't your parents, would you still love them? Or like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
how does that work? Anyways, anyways, but like you love your parents, right? Like you love your parents kind of unconditionally, but like still there are times when I don't love myself, but I still love like my mom. So like how does that work? Like is it a different type of love? Are there like it's still genuine? Like I feel like my love for my mom is genuine, but like at the same time that I'm like loving my mom, like I can absolutely despise myself.
Yeah, I think it's mainly just because it's a completely different relationship and it's a different kind of love. Because familial love is far different from like friendship or like romantic love. Because I don't know, it's a little bit weird because you're like you're ingrained, you're taught all your life that you're supposed to love your family unconditionally, which is really interesting because in other ways you don't really get taught that much to love your friends and like romantic partner conditionally, especially now considering how how common divorce and stuff like that is.
Mm.
Like it's weird because in a family you're sort of forced together. You don't have the option to leave.
Mm.
Like it's a lot harder to leave a familial relationship.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like familial relationships are more habitual rather than not genuine isn't the right word, but rather than like proctored or instigated, if that makes sense. Because
can you
like
say that again?
we should love our family unconditionally.
Run that back.
Can you say that again?
That
You're
one more
like
time, you broke
Oh,
up.
my bad. My internet being trash. Yeah, it sounds like the gist is okay, the gist is family love habitual question mark
Question mark, right?
instead of instigated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cause
Yeah,
I like
because I feel like there's go ahead.
no, sorry, I didn't actually have a thought. Continue.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, because you know when you're it's hard to offer genuine love to someone who is not your family members when you don't have self-love, because even if you say, oh, I appreciate XYZ, you know, I found it really easy to get caught up in self-deprecation that way. You know, oh, they're so good at blah, 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 blah. I wish I could do that. You know, I think self-love almost in essence is being comfortable enough with yourself to take your eyes off of yourself, if that makes sense. Right? So you're not so concerned about your every move or what you can do in comparison to them, but you can genuinely appreciate them because you can genuinely appreciate yourself, and you don't need to pit yourself up against people for validation.
Okay.
Well, then
We
what?
have 5 minutes left.
Okay, wait. Do answer this question really quick, and then we'll go to the last question. Okay, what does the ideal like self-love, like ideally in your mind, like if it were in utopia, what does the ideal self-love look like? Like, how would you treat yourself?
You wouldn't have to think about like your insecurities or anything, anxiety, nothing. You just have to take one good look at yourself and be like, yeah, I'm good. I'm set. You know, not to this point of being like a narcissist, but like being pleased with what you are and like, yeah, what you are, as opposed to like criticizing everything that you do, say, like. Yeah.
I would say it's being content with yourself. You're happy with yourself the way that you are, but not necessarily satisfied. Like you're still looking for that growth in areas that maybe you're weak in, but you're still content in that area. So you're content but not satisfied.
Yeah, like you what was I gonna say? So I can't think of it right now.
Yeah. Okay. I like self-love. I don't know. I still don't know the answer to that question myself. Like, it's something I think about a lot. But did you have something?
Could you repeat the question?
What is your what is your thoughts like in your head? If I can think of the question. In your head, what does self-love ideally look like?
Okay. It's loving everything about yourself that you can't change and striving to be better in the things that you can change.
Well put, Trevor.
Okay, the last question. At what point does self-love develop into narcissism? Like, when's the cutting off point?
I feel like when you obsess over yourself.
Oh, well, it's when I think it's when sometimes you can jump from deprecation to narcissism, because if you're still comparing yourself to others and saying, oh, I'm better than them, then that's narcissism, you know. But if like I said with self-love, if you're able to look outside of yourself and look at other people and be content with yourself, not satisfied but content, at that point it's self-love and not narcissism.
Could you define narcissism?
Let me look it up. I think.
Well, you're looking that up. I really think it's kind of like your intent. Like if you're looking at yourself, trying to improve yourself and make yourself better, then I think that's a good thing. If you're trying to build yourself up by putting other people down and saying like, oh, I'm better than them by comparing and looking at yourself, then I think that'd be a bad thing.
I think you're really all like, it lays on that level, like content with yourself, but not on a pedestal kind of situation.
It says narcissism is the excessive interest in or admiration of oneself. So I think it says excessive, but that's like what I always wonder, like at what point does it become excessive? And I think like when I think about it, I think that if in every situation you find a way to relate it to yourself, then I think that can be narcissism. But like self-love is just like is trying to find in the situation. I don't know. Self-love is hard for me. Like I don't know how to define it for myself. But
yeah, I agree with what they were saying earlier, I think it's really just whenever you start putting others down or seeing other than you, that's the point when it's too far.
All right. Thank you, Anna Rose, very much for leading out. I hate to cut this short, but we're running out of time because I'm cheap and haven't paid for the subscription. So thank you guys for your input and your thoughts. And join us back here next week. 5:30 is the plan, starting next week. So make sure and share this with your friends, please.
Yes.
This is not
Oh, and go
6:30.
follow our Instagram account. It's
Yes.
c.af.e.youth.
Wow, that was good.
Wow.
First time we've gotten it right.
Yeah.
Audience.
Yeah, I'm a professional. What can I say?
All right. Thank you guys. We'll catch you next time, hopefully in person.
Bye.
Hopefully,
Bye.
Comfortable setting. Adios.